What's going on, fellas, and welcome to our coaching video for June of 2022. As always, I want to thank you for taking the time out to watch. I pray that our coaching this month is both helpful, encouraging, and a blessing to you. We're going to be in Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. If you want to go ahead and pause the video, make sure you have your Bible in front of you, something to write with, something to write on. Take some notes as you come across something helpful or a passage, a verse that you want to go back and look at. Take some more time to sort of delve into it and process it a little bit more. Matthew 7, 13 and 14. Let's go ahead and read it. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is hard, which leads to life, and those who find it are few. Matthew 7, 13, 14. Those verses are probably somewhat familiar to many of you, but I want to draw out several things for observation and just to think through them this month. I want to talk to you about something that I call hard works. Hard works. Maybe you've heard of work hard. Maybe you've never heard of hard works. But a couple observations. I want to jump right in. The first one is this. According to our text, there are two paths in life that we can choose from, signified in the text by two gates, a narrow gate and a wide gate. Now, the narrow gate, according to the text, is difficult to get in. It may be even difficult to find. And because it's difficult in its entry and maybe difficult in locating it, maybe you can even peek through the gate and see that it's difficult to walk. The path itself is difficult. Because of that, it says that there are few that find it, right? On the other hand, there's a wide gate. Apparently this wide gate is easy to get in because it's so wide anyone can walk through. You can go through with others. You can go in with a group. You can go in a party. You can go in a throng. You can go in mass. And so it's easy to get in. It's easy to find, again, because it's so wide, so visible. It's easy to find, and then a lot of people get in that way. A lot of people are on that path. You can go back to the narrow gate because it's so narrow. You have to go in individually. It's something where you have to have the courage to go in by yourself. I remember going out to a friend's house in Colorado during spring break one year in college, and we went to these canyons, and there was these rock formations where you could just get in and get in maybe 30, 40 yards. And there was the most amazing drawings in these rock formations. But to get in and see them, you had to sort of creep through this very, very narrow pass. And at the time, I was a pretty skinny dude, so it was pretty easy for me to get in. But you certainly could go in one at a time. More than one, you weren't getting through that area. So there are two paths in life that we can choose, two gates. One's narrow, one's wide. The second observation about these paths and these gates is this. The two paths also lead to two different destinations. The narrow gate leads to life. The wide gate leads to destruction. Now, one would think, just based on the destinations, the narrow gate leading to life would accumulate or attract the large crowd. After all, who wants death? Nobody, right? But yet, the narrow gate which leads to life is the one that has a few people on it. The narrow gate which leads to life is the one that the party and the people en masse are not at. The wide gate, on the contrary, leads to death and it leads to destruction. And yet, even though the destination is destruction, it has a large gathering. It has a lot of people on the path, a lot of people gathered around the gate, a popular place to go. We have two paths, a narrow one, a wide one. There are two different gates, a narrow gate and a wide gate. There are two paths in their destination, a path of life and a path of death and destruction. The third observation we can make on the text is the fact that the paths are traveled by different kinds of people. The narrow gate is traveled by what we will call the few. I don't know if you remember, but when I was a kid, the Marine Corps had these most amazing commercials recruiting people for the Marines. It was always a young dude that was conquering this difficult obstacle, huge challenging task, and when he was able to finish it, he would always reach his arm up in the air and all of a sudden grasp a sword. magically be transformed and changed into a Marine wearing dress blues, then it would say the few, the proud, the Marines, right? The few are on the narrow gate. The few are the ones who are brave enough to take the difficult path. The few are the ones who are on their way towards life. And yet the wide gate, which leads to destruction, is traveled by what we would call the many. It's the popular path. It's the easy path. It's the path that everyone wants to be on. I used to hear people brag about, going to hell and throwing a party when they get there. The idea that this path of destruction is popular, the idea that the path of destruction is fun, is one that we see everywhere. We've seen it culturally. We've seen it for generations. And so we have two gates. We have a narrow one. We have a wide one. We have two different destinations, a path toward life and a path toward destruction. We have different kinds of travelers. We have the few and we have the many. We have the ones that have the courage to walk the narrow gate, which leads to life, and we have the ones that don't have the courage to walk the narrow and difficult gate. The ones that they're on leads toward death. And the fourth observation is the nature of the paths. The nature of the paths, what you see in this text, is the narrow gate is hard, and yet the wide gate is easy. Let me read the text again. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction. Notice how he starts the text. Enter the narrow gate. That's the command. And his first rationale and reasoning behind it is because the wide gate is easy. Enter by the narrow gate because the wide gate is easy. Think about that. If I said, hey, do this challenge with me because the opposite is super easy. Do this hard thing because the opposite is fun. Yet that's what Jesus says to attract and to challenge and to draw people to himself. Enter by the narrow gate because the wide gate is easy and it leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many, because the gate is narrow and the way is hard, which leads to life, and those who find it are few. The nature of the paths are different. The narrow gate is hard, the wide gate is easy. I'm going to take just a few minutes this month to challenge you and encourage you to take the hard path. You've heard me say it before. The difference between men and boys is that boys do what they want while men do what they must. I would go so far to say this: the narrow gate is for men, the wide gate is for boys. And many of us have had the experience that during our teenage years and maybe our early adulthood, we were on the wide gate, the wide path. It was easy and fun until by God's grace, we learned the truth, or the Lord turned the lights on. We encountered the gospel in some form, some way, and then we hit the eject button, got off the wide path and the wide gate that was heading towards destruction, and went through the narrow gate, which in and of itself is Christ, right? I'm the door, John chapter 10. And so we got off that path and we got on to the path of the narrow gate, which is hard. Men do what they must. Boys, man, wide gate all the way. It's easy, it's fun, party, lots of sex, drugs, rock and roll, all that stuff, right? The narrow gate, the difficult path, the hard path is the one that men, real men, are on. Men that love Jesus, men that love their families, men that are good for the world, good for society, good for their communities. Listen, being a man is hard, especially when you are completely committed, when you're doing the real man thing, the husband, father thing. Some of you guys don't be discouraged if you're not there yet, if you're on that path. I certainly wasn't on that path 25 years ago. I was just a single dude that didn't have a clue what he was doing. Different path, different season of life. As a husband now of 20 plus years, father, almost 18 years being a dad. But being a man is hard. The weight of manhood is heavy. It's hard. It's hard work. And I want to think about that phrase, hard work. Hard works. It really does. We've heard of work hard, but hard works. I came across something on social media, seen it a bunch the last couple of months now, but it's something that goes like this. It's called Choose Your Hard. It says marriage is hard. Divorce is hard. Choose your hard. Obesity is hard. Being fit is hard. Choose your hard. Being in debt is hard. Being financially disciplined is hard. Choose your hard. Communication is hard. Not communicating is hard. Choose your hard. Life will never be easy. It will always be hard, but we can choose our hard. Pick wisely. I want to add a few things to that list. I liked the list, but I would just say a couple more things. Being disciplined is hard, right? Yet living a life without structure where everything seems to be out of sync is hard. Choose your hard. Getting up early is hard. Wasting the best hours of your day is hard. Choose your hard. Confronting sin in your wife or your kids or your significant other, and that's hard. Living with the long-term consequences of unconfronted sin is hard. Choose your hard. Confessing sin and brokenness is hard. Watching your life unravel because of unconfessed sin is hard. Choose your hard. So let's take that way of thinking, right? And let's bring it back to the text. Following Christ is hard. The gate is narrow and the way is hard. Right? You want an easier way? Well, then go in the wide gate. And you can have all the benefits of being on the wide path, on the wide gate toward destruction. You can be broke, single, fat, lazy, silent, proud, undisciplined, and on the road to hell. Or you can be a godly man. You can choose the hard way. You can do the hard things. And so this month, real simple, I want to encourage you to choose what's hard. For each and every one of us, that's going to look different. You know, how we discipline our time, whether we're getting the right amount of sleep, whether we're feeding and fueling our body with the right kind of foods, whether we're busy and just going about our day, or whether we're disciplined and intentional in our exercise habits and routines, whether we're saving money, whether we're spending money, whether we're investing foolishly, or whether just, working 60 hours a week to try to get rich. Whatever we're doing, how we're leading in our relationships, how we're just dating for the heck of it, or being really intentional in everything we do with our wives, our girlfriends, significant others, whatever that looks like. Doing what's hard is going to be slightly different for all of us. But no matter the decisions you make, I want to choose you to do the hard things, because that's where the benefit is. That's where the growth happens. That's where we really start to change and we're transformed by the gospel. So remember, choose hard because hard works. Now, practical and tactical this month, I want to read you 3 passages. I want to make a quick application for each one. Philippians 3:12 through 15. Not that I've already obtained this or am already perfect. Of course not, right? But I press on to make it my own, because Christ Jesus has made me his own. Brothers, I do not consider that I've made it my own. But one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward for what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. Let those of us who are mature think this way. And if in anything you think otherwise, God will reveal that to you also. So I'm not perfect. I haven't got there yet. I haven't arrived. Doesn't matter what path I was on. Forget what's behind. I strive forward. Man, I press in. I agonizomai, right? I work hard to get to where I'm going for the prize of the upward call of God, obtaining the thing that Christ obtained me for. So here's observation number 1 on that text right there. Before you can choose the hard, you have to change the way you think. Right? Before you can choose the hard, you have to change the way you think. Paul ends that little section right there. Let those of us who are mature think this way. Listen, this is the way we have to think. We've got to forget what's in the past. We've got to strive. We've got to work hard. We've got to press into the things that are ahead of us, our future, the things that God has called us to. It's hard work, and we'll never get there unless we are mature and we think this way. So we'll never choose the hard until we change the way we think. Next text, Romans 8:18. Paul says, "For I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that is to be revealed to us." The sufferings of this present time not worthy to be compared to the glory that's going to be revealed to us. Second observation is this, for practical and tactical. 2, remember the reward. Hard works. We do the hard thing. We labor, we strive, we press. But remember the reward. No matter what you're going through, The sufferings of this present world, right? Which Paul calls in 2 Corinthians chapter 4, momentary light affliction. While you're going through that, never forget the reward is so great, it's really not worth being compared to the things that we're going through. And it's certainly not worth complaining about anyways, right? Remember the reward. Observation 3 for practical and tactical. Hebrews 12, 3 through 6. Consider him who endured from sinners such hostility against himself, so that you may not grow weary or faint-hearted. In your struggle against sin, you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your blood. And have you forgotten the exhortation that addresses you as sons? My son, do not regard lightly the discipline of the Lord, nor be weary when reproved by him. For the Lord disciplines the one he loves and chastises every son whom he receives. Observation number 3, consider Christ. Consider Christ. As you're striving, as you're choosing the hard, as you're working hard, because hard works, remember Christ. Consider Christ. Remember what he went through. Then compare it to what you're going through. Now, I don't ever want to minimize or delegitimize anyone's suffering, anyone's difficulty, anyone's hardships or suffering, but no matter what we're going through, in order to maintain our joy, we must keep it in context and remember what Christ endured for us. After all, again, this is according to the text, you, me, we have not yet, again, not yet, it's coming, may indeed be coming, and for the first time since the Roe v. Wade got struck down by the Supreme Court, for the first time we're really starting to see intentional, pointed hatred, animosity, and persecution towards the church for standing up for truth in this one area. You have not yet resisted to the point of shedding your own blood. All right, that's what he says. Consider Christ for what he did, what you're doing. You're not there yet. That's why we don't complain. It doesn't help anyways, and we haven't got there yet. We haven't shedded our blood yet. And like my middle school coach used to always say, hey, no blood, no foul. Right? There's no reason to be complaining or crying yet. You're not even bleeding yet. Okay, so save the complaining maybe for when the intensity of the persecution and the heat of the sufferings rises up a little bit. Listen, don't complain about the hard stuff. Little coaching for you, little man coaching. Nobody respects a baby. Boys complain. Men keep their hand to the plow. Men keep grinding. Men get the job done, right? For the respect of others, for the good of your family, and for the glory of God. Choose hard, because hard works. I hope that that is a blessing to you. I hope that that's an encouragement to you. I hope it maybe is a kick in the pants for some of you, maybe even for me. I know it's challenging for me to begin to think this way, to always choose the hard way, because the hard way produces more fruit. But I really want to encourage you to do that as I encourage myself. I look forward to connecting with you guys when summer is over. I look forward to getting some meetings back up and running. And if I could connect with you in any other way, feel free to reach out to me through our website, proverbsxxxclub.com. That's proverbsxxxclub.com. You can always comment on our videos on YouTube, or you can send me an email. Plenty of resources on our YouTube page and on our website. If I can help you in any way, I look forward to doing that, and look forward to connecting with you guys again soon. Until then, see you next time.